So today's going to be a longer video, so we're going to try and cut to the chase here. You saw the title, you know exactly what we're doing. Basically, we both went ahead and looked at week by week, picked the winners of each game, and we're going to have our regular and postseason predictions. Um, we did this on our own and then brought it together, so we didn't have either of us influence one another. We're going to spend time talking about pretty much every team, but some teams we might go more in depth on because that's just how it is. So, ready to start?
Go.
All right, we'll start with the AFC East. So, here we go. Both of us have the Bills in first, winning the division. I think that's pretty much the consensus for just about everyone at this point. They sign Stephon Diggs in the offseason. It's pretty straightforward to have the Bills in first. I have them at 11-5. You have them 9-7. I do think 11-5 might be a little high, but they have the talent for to compete in a lot of their games.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the Bills division. The AFC East actually has some of the hardest schedules in the league. So that's why the Bills are 9-7, said maybe 11-5 or 10-6. And I also wanted I was also expecting to have Miami Dolphins and the Patriots with a couple more wins too. Like, I don't want to be the one to go against Bill Belichick, but when I look at the teams they play, like it's going to be a tough year for those two teams and the Jets as well.
Yeah, so to me, on paper, you're going to disagree with this, but I don't even know if I should say on paper, because on paper, I think the Dolphins probably have the best of those remaining three teams. But I like the Jets, and I think as a team and how they'll play and what they did in the offseason, bringing in an O-lineman for Darnold. I think that the Jets could win the most games out of those remaining three teams, but they have a brutal schedule, probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest. And then the Pats would be probably second. But there's just too many question marks for me with the Patriots. Stidham coming in most likely as the starter. And, last year only 4 attempts, 14 yards, and one of them was thrown as a pick. So I'm not sure how Patriots fans can be completely bought in on the fact that they're going to be a team that competes and makes a playoff push because, yes, Bill Belichick deserves the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, it's like there's just so little weapons for that offense. And even on defense now, they lose guys like Van Noy, Danny Shelton, Jamie Collins.
I think the defense for the Patriots is definitely gonna have to carry them again, even with those losses. Like it's gonna be harder. It's definitely gonna take a step down from last season. The defense was insane. But as for the Jets, uh, I don't think they're there yet. I have them at 4-12, which could be a little understatement there,
Yep.
but I just don't think they're there yet. Sam Darnold, he needs to stay healthy, and even then, he hasn't really proved anything. So I think, like many other quarterbacks in this league, this could be his make or break year. Maybe they'll give another year for him after if he doesn't have a good season. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I just don't really like the Jets.
I think Darnold, some would say it could be like a make or break it kind of year, but for me, I think it's Adam Gase who's definitely on the hot seat. Like if he has a even maybe a 5-11 season, I think that they probably part ways with him at that point. He hasn't done much, and to end off the AFC East, we'll talk about the Dolphins real quick because I like their head coach Flores a lot, and I think that you and I both agreed that they had the best offseason probably
Yep.
out of every team.
Yeah, the Dolphins to me had the best offseason with getting a bunch of defense pieces, just like you said, Van Noy and Byron Jones, just to name a couple. Um, they drafted Tua. Who knows is he going to play? If he does play, he may. I think the Dolphins win a couple more games, but even rolling with Fitzpatrick, they're a much improved team. So yeah, I have him finishing second at 5-11.
All right, so that's going to do it for the AFC East. We will now move on to the AFC North. So both of us again have the same winner of the AFC North. That's the Baltimore Ravens. I also think this is kind of straightforward. Most people will probably have the Ravens,
Lamar Jackson, I don't think he's going to be the same guy he was last year. I think 14-2 is the best season Lamar is ever going to have, which was what they went last year. So yeah, I see them taking a step down and losing 4 more games than last season.
I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see if Lamar regresses, like you said, and if that was like the best possible season, or if he continues to grow and ends up becoming like a superstar for a long time in the league. It's going to be interesting to see. Uh, then the Steelers and the Browns, both going to be competitive this year, both going to be in the mix for the playoffs. I have Steelers 10-6, Browns 9-7, so that would put them both in the playoffs, which would, I guess, be a surprise. You have Steelers 9-7, Browns 7-9. I think Big Ben for the Steelers is gonna obviously improve than their situation last year, which was 8-8. But I don't know how much faith I can put in him to stay healthy all 16 games and to bring them into the postseason.
Big Ben, I like him for the next if for 2 more years max, and then I say he calls it a career after that. But I think that's always good for. And if as long as he stays healthy, you said they went 8-8, and Big Ben got hurt week 1 last year, and they were rolling with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph
Yep.
for basically the whole season. They still went even. I only have them finishing at 9-7, and I see the Steelers making their way back to the playoffs and maybe even competing.
Yeah, you have them one game behind the Ravens. To me, it's just like the Ravens at this point have almost a perfect offense. They add Dobbins, who's going to be in the rotation at running back, but they kind of doubled down on their style of play on offense this offseason with the O lineman that they got as well. Obviously, the Marshall Yonder retires, but I still think that they're a step above the rest of this division. And for the Bengals, we both have them at 5-11. What do you think for them?
I like Burrow. Rookie quarterbacks are always hard to figure out. I think he definitely still needs help, and he needs experience. And then again, like this division is going to be a very much improved division since last year. So could be the reason why I have the Ravens at 10-6 instead of like 12-4. But yeah, it's going to be tough for Burrow in his first year in this division.
Number one pick. Everybody seems to love Burrow, and for me, I probably love him even more than the majority of people. So for me to have him at 5-7, the Bengals at 5-7 kind of feels like close to their ceiling, to be honest. So it kind of shows, even though they go and get T. Higgins in the draft, um, he's missing a lot around him offensively and defensively is an absolute mess. So they're gonna be in rebuild mode for a while now.
Yep.
AFC South. Now we got some disagreements here. I have the Colts and you have the Texans both at 11-5. I'll let you defend the Texans.
Um, I they lost DeAndre Hopkins. I still like they're just still my favorite team. Deshaun Watson is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I feel like he can make it work without DeAndre Hopkins. They have Brandon Cooks now. They still have Will Fuller, and yeah, I just think the Texans are going to finish first. I think they're just a pure better team than the rest of the division.
To me, um, I don't like teams that seem to be having internal issues, and that's partially a reason why I have the Jaguars losing 14 games, but we'll get to that in a second. The Texans, it seems like there's almost like a civil war that's about to erupt with the fans, the head coach, the GM. Everything is, it seems like a mess. It's not an ideal situation. You almost feel bad for Watson because he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's still a talented roster, but I don't put my faith in a situation like that. And I have the Colts at 11-5 because I think that um, they had a great offseason as well. They add DeForest Buckner on defense, one of the best D tackles in the league. Obviously, Phillip Rivers, I don't I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think he's an improvement over Brissett, and he hasn't been in a situation uh, where he's had an O line quite like this. One of the best O lines in the league, and they also go ahead and draft not only Jonathan Taylor to be their running back there, but they also go and get Michael Pittman Jr., who I like a lot as a rookie wide receiver. The Titans, I have them
Like,
7-9.
yeah,
You have them at 9-7. So kind of in the same ballpark there. What do you think on the Titans?
I have them at 9-7. They just have a solid overall team. And what I was gonna say about the Colts, yes, they haven't made improvements, but to me, Philip Rivers is not that much, if any, a big improvement to Jacoby Brissett. I know, like, yeah, they have improvements, but I just don't know about the culture. They're just one of those teams where you don't know what they're gonna do. And the Titans, Tannehill did big things last year that we've never seen out of a guy like him. Derrick Henry is going to continue to stomp all over everybody. And you look at my division, 7, 8, 9, 11 wins. Like, it's up for grabs. And this division is usually always up for grabs. So it's going to be interesting to see.
My issue with the Titans, they lose a couple important players, Lyman Conklin and Logan Ryan, the DB. And then I'm not a fan of Tannehill. I think that you look at the games that they won in the postseason. He didn't do anything. He didn't have to do anything. It's not anything against him, but I just don't think he's suited to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he doesn't have to, but it's just at the end of the day, the Titans, I feel like they overachieved last season in that run that they made in the playoffs. So I think they regressed this year. 7-9, I feel like around that ballpark. The Jaguars, we certainly disagree with a little bit here. 7 wins for you. I have them as the worst team in the NFL this year. I think that there are internal issues when you have a GM, having beef on Twitter with one of your star players. That's not a good look. And I think not only that, but you have probably one of the least talented rosters, if not the least talented in the league. They lose Calais Campbell, AJ Bouye, obviously Nick Foles, Marquise Lee. Just not a lot of talent there. I think they'll end up tanking.
Yeah, I could definitely see them tanking. I have them at 7-9, though. You got to remember we went through the schedule game by game. So obviously I have them at 7-9. I don't remember where I had them winning or losing. So I think they had one of the easier schedules. This is why I had them at 7-9. But like I said before, I think I don't know how many games I had them winning in the division, but I say they win at least 2 games in the division. So their defense keeps regressing year after year, and Minshew, you say, is one of the most overhyped quarterbacks. I don't mind Minshew. I think he's mediocre for right now. But if Minshew doesn't work out this year, and they'll end up tanking probably for Lawrence.
I almost feel bad for Jags fans because they were so close a couple years ago with that roster with Jalen Ramsey, and now they're literally, to me, they're one of the worst teams in the league. But that's how it goes. AFC West now, last AFC division. Both have the Chiefs at 12-4. Pretty straightforward there. To me, there's nothing not to like about the Chiefs team. Not much has to be said. They got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid.
Yeah, it's no debate for me for the Chiefs as the number one seed. They're also the number one seed in the AFC and have the best record in football for me, standing alone at 12-4.
After that, I got 9, 8, and 7 wins. You got 8, 7, and 5. So it's going to be a competitive division. These 3 teams, I think, are close. I actually think the Broncos are sneakily close to the Chiefs. I think that's a really underrated team. You're getting Drew Lock. You're getting these young guys like Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, who I think Noah Fant is going to have a breakout season. You go and draft Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. You give them these weapons that they're going to use. And then on defense as well, they had a few. They also brought in Melvin Gordon and then AJ Bouye. Like it's just a sneakily good team that I think is gonna surprise a lot of people this year.
Yeah, their offense has made its improvements with Jerry Jeudy in the draft, Melvin Gordon. Uh, their defense, it's Denver defense. Like, you know what you're gonna get with that. They're always solid. I have them at 8-8. I don't think Drew Lock lives up to the hype. But I still think he has a solid season, and they sneak in playoffs as a 7 seed for me.
Another thing too is they have their first round pick a couple of years ago. Bradley Chubb was injured last season for I forget how long, the majority though, and he'll be back this season as well. So both of us have them in second. Then we have the Raiders and Chargers, two interesting teams. Not to be honest, these are tough teams to rank or to predict because the Chargers, you don't know the QB situation. You don't know a couple different things, and the Raiders obviously moving cities. Is Derek Carr the guy? Like, there's some question marks. You have the Raiders winning 5 games, and you said that was due to the schedule. Am I right on that?
Yeah, we went through game by game, and I was looking back at the Raiders' schedule, and I actually have them starting 0-6 until they finally get a win against the Browns. They lose to the Panthers, Saints, Patriots, Bills, Chiefs, and Buccaneers. That's a tough 6 games to start the season. Then they finally get that first win off their back, lose to the Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs, Falcons, and then win 4 straight, and then lose to the Broncos. So I have them going 0-2 against the Broncos, splitting with the Chargers, and 0-2 against the Chiefs, which is one of the big reasons why they're 5-11.
One of the things for me is they end the season off last year at 7-9. A couple of those games that they lost, very competitive, could have went either way. Not only did Antonio Brown obviously leave the team in a tough situation offensively, but defensively, linebacker was literally non-existent. And then the NFL suspended Burfict, and I think it was week 5, and left us with literally nothing at linebacker. I say us. I'm a Raiders fan, if that's not obvious. Then they go and get Nick Kwiatkowski and Corey Littleton. So those are improvements, big improvements at linebacker. You go and draft Henry Ruggs to give Carr um, a, a threat who can stretch the field. And overall, just you didn't lose much, and what you did lose, you brought in. So I think they're going to be better than maybe people are expecting, but I think we should also be tempering expectations there.
They win or lose a lot of close games.
Yep.
That's going to be the reason why you have them at 8-8. I have them at 5. They just lose a couple more of those games. And one of the other teams that do that are the Chargers.
To me, like it's a really talented roster. Like I can't deny that at all. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter week 1. Well, we'll see how long that lasts. Maybe Herbert gets brought in, but it's just I don't know. I'm not sure why. I think it's a tough division. It's a tough schedule. It's really up in the air with the Chargers this season.
I also think Tyrod's going to be the week 1 starter. It's pretty clear to see that. But I have Tyrod on a very short lease, and Herbert. I just don't think he's the answer to that. But we'll see what happens. They still have a great defense too.
We'll jump over to the NFC East. So standings wise, we have first, second, third place all the same. Let's actually start at the bottom here: Redskins and Giants.
No debating here. Redskins. Dwayne Haskins is not good. He's going to be a backup next year or in a couple of years, and eventually his career will be over, and he's going to end up like Deshaun Kaiser. That's what I feel about Dwayne Haskins. The Giants, Daniel Jones, I like him, but I think he needs some more experience. They improved their O-line in the draft. Gives Saquon a little bit more breathing room, hopefully, to see what else he could do. But ultimately, I still think they remain at 6-10. It's going to be a couple years probably until they can get over that 500 hump for me.
For the Giants, last year they go 4-12, so 5-11 is kind of might seem a little odd, seeing that I think that they definitely got better this offseason. Blake Martinez, they bring in guys like James Bradbury, Dion Lewis. And then they go in the draft and get an O-lineman, a couple of linemen, Andrew Thomas in the first round, and then McKinney in the second round as a safety. So I think they get a little bit better, but I don't think that they're – I think that they'll compete in games. They could win anywhere from 4 to 7 games, but I have them at 5. For the Redskins, I kind of feel like not much change. Obviously, you bring in Chase Young. I think he will be a stud in the league, but you didn't do much else at all in free agency or the draft. So there's not much to look forward to, honestly, if you're a Redskins fan. Eagles and Cowboys, both of us have at the top. You have the Cowboys winning kind of comfortably, 3 games ahead of the Eagles. I have it as 1 game, and I'm just going to say right now, I think the Eagles could very well win this division.
I mean, the Eagles. It's always the Cowboys Eagles for the last couple years. It's been like that. Anybody's gonna win. But here's my thing on the Eagles. I could go into their roster and stuff. I'm just gonna say one quick statement right here. I think they're an overrated team because they are the only ones in this division who could compete with America's most hated team. So a lot of people I see root for the Eagles, think Carson Wentz is better than Dak, just on a fact that he's the only one who can compete with them.
I think that is a little harsh. I think that the Eagles, obviously, like this is the thing. Again, I could go into the roster, which I think Slay and Rigor were big additions, but last year they're faced with the injury bug, unlike any other team in the NFL. I mean, they're literally playing Greg Ward at wide receiver. Like, it's not going to be the same this season. Deshaun's back. They draft Rigor, possibly Alshon. I think that they improved, and I think that they're definitely right there with the Cowboys. It could go either way.
Yeah, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson. A lot of people think he's washed. They're washed. I also think they're washed. Obviously,
I think Alshon's washed. Deshaun's still got a little left in him.
as for the Cowboys, they're known for not playing up to their potential. Their roster is very talented. They lost key players like Byron Jones, Robert Quinn, but they also added to their D line.
Travis Frederick too. They lost, retired.
Yeah, he retired too. But they added to the D line. They got Gerald McCoy and Don Terry Poe, Alden Smith. So I think this is when the Cowboys could finally put it all together, maybe get 11 wins, and I think that's still not even playing up to their full potential.
Definitely going to be a fun thing to watch all season long, these two teams. NFC North now. Packers, Vikings at the top. I think we both have them 1 win off, so that kind of shows. I don't know if you're feeling the same way on this, but I think it could go either way, just like the NFC East for me. But what do you think about the Packers?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of was surprised when I saw, like, after I finished the games, I saw the Packers at 9-7 and the Vikings at 8-8. I was expecting at least one of those teams to go with 10 wins, but one of the reasons why I have the Packers on 9-7 is because of Rodgers, and I think he's going to regress. We saw him regress last season. I think he's going to do it again, even though he made the NFC Championship. I think the Packers are still going to regress, and I think they're going to get worse and worse from here on out.
Yeah, they go 13-3 last year, and in terms of free agency, the guys that they lose and the guys they bring in, I think at the end of the day, it kind of evens out. Obviously, a heavily criticized draft, probably the most criticized draft, which I
Yep.
didn't love, but then it's too early to make an assumption. But I think 13-3 was insane for them last year. I don't think they should have been that high, but still, when you have Aaron Rodgers, when you have Devontae Adams, I have them as the favorites in this division. For the Vikings, Cousins ends the year last year, getting a big win finally against the Saints in the playoffs. I think if he can have a decent season, this team is going to be in playoff contention, and hopefully for Vikings fans, maybe even further, because Dalvin Cook is a monster.
Dalvin Cook is a beast. Kirk Cousins has improved in prime time too. Um, this is my team. The Vikings are going to be my team to either win a lot of close games or lose a lot of close games. But I have them even right now at 8-8. Um, and the Lions, I think, tie them at 8-8 because of. I told you if Matthew Stafford was healthy, I think they're my sleeper team. I don't quite have them making the playoffs, but yeah, I have the Lions at 8-8, making a great improvement.
I think their defense also improved, and obviously Stafford will be back. So I have them at 6 wins, which I think is kind of fair. But it's gonna be a season where they can compete a lot more than they did last year. For the Bears, I have them 7. You have one less at 6. I think they lost a lot on defense, and not a whole lot brought in. They did bring in Jimmy Graham, Robert Quinn, but I have them at 7 and 9.
Yeah, not much to say about the Bears. I just think they had their 1 year 2 years ago. They're not going to do it again. Mitch Trubisky, uh, one of the most overrated quarterbacks. People actually trash on him, so maybe he's not that over.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just think he's not the right answer for the Bears right now.
NFC South. Saints, Bucks, Falcons, Panthers. The order is the same for us. Both have 11-5 Saints. Uh, they bring in Malcolm Jenkins, Emmanuel Sanders, a couple O linemen. It seems like they improved. They didn't lose much at all.
Yeah, they definitely improved. They're gonna continue to dominate the division, even with Brady and Gronk storming in here. Um, yeah, I like the Saints definitely to win this division with ease.
Now that I'm looking at it, though, I said that they improved, but last year they went 13-3. So I'm wondering if I was. I mean, it is a tough schedule. The NFC South, not only playing each other, but the Saints and the Buccaneers. They all play some pretty tough schedules, but we'll see. We'll see. Buccaneers, Brady, Gronk, um, good draft. I thought it's going to be really fun to see what Brady does with these weapons that he has now.
Brady isn't done yet. I think he's gonna sneak his way into the playoffs at 9-7. We'll see if he still has the magic in the playoffs that he used to, and if he's still dominant without Belichick. Let's settle that whole debate: is it Brady? Is it Belichick? We'll see this season. Um, yeah, the Buccaneers are probably one of the tougher teams though, because I don't know. They seem like they could be really good with Jameis Winston. Was it Jameis Winston dragging them down though? We'll see.
How do you see the Falcons 2020 going?
Um, Definitely an improvement from kind of a disappointing season last year. I'm improving up to even. A couple years ago, made the Super Bowl. Great, like I Falcons are always one of those teams that are hard to predict. They go 13-3 one season and 3-13 the next season. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you swap Freeman and Hooper for Gurley and Hurst, which I think is okay. But then you bring in, well, I guess you kind of lost Vic Beasley, but then you bring in Dante Fowler Jr. You lose Desmond Trufant, and you bring in AJ Terrell. So I don't know if they got better. I think that they kind of stayed around the same, but the difference is, yeah, last season was disappointing, and I think that they'll perform better, but their schedule's just as hard, and I don't think they're a playoff team. So I think 6, 7, maybe 8 games is in their ballpark.
You have
Pan,
the Packers at 4-12.
yep, new team, new coach. Obviously, it's going to be Teddy's team now. They bring in not much. I like their draft. They bring in Derek Brown, a couple other pass rushers, but I do think that they're one of the weaker teams. Christian McCaffrey's obviously, to me, is the best running back in the league. Um, but yeah, 4-12. I don't think it's there yet. I think Matt Rule is going to take another season to rebuild, basically. 7-9 though, you have him.
Yeah, see, I like Matt Rule. I like this new head coach. McCaffrey, yeah, best running back in the league, no debate. Um, Teddy Bridgewater, though, he was solid last year for the Saints, and that was with a good supporting cast around him. He had a lot of weapons to work with, and he obviously doesn't have a guy like Mike Thomas anymore. He has DJ Moore and uh, what's the other guys? Curtis Samuel. Uh,
Brandon Robbie Anderson.
yeah, that's true. But I don't know. It's going to be hard to compete in this division, which is why I only have 7 wins. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers sneak in the playoffs, honestly.
Wow. All right, NFC West. Let's finish it off here in the regular season. Similar numbers here in terms of each team's win total. We'll start with the Rams since we both agree 7-9. Um, what do you think of the Rams this year?
This is easily the best division in football. They lost Todd Gurley, but they drafted another running back. What was his name again? Cam Akers?
Cam Akers, yeah, Florida State.
Uh, I don't like that, or I like that draft pick a little bit, but once again, this, like I said, this is the best division in football in my opinion, and it's going to be hard to compete.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Although I do think they did get worse. They lose Littleton, Cooks, Clay Matthews, Eric Weddle, Dante Fowler, Nicole Roby Coleman. I think they get worse, but they're still a good team. It's just their schedule is brutal. But I also think these next couple years, when all these guys that they paid, their contracts are not helping this team, and I think that they will kind of head in backwards, take a few steps back in the next couple years. Cardinals 8-8, and you have them 10-6. I think that we're looking at an improved team. Obviously, you bring in DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best receiver in the league. It's a huge weapon to give Kyler Murray. I love Kyler Murray. I think he's going to make another big step this year in his second year. But I think that they're still missing quite a bit. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think 8-8 is fair, maybe a little generous because of their division being so tough. And I like Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't know if the way that he coaches and that style is going to work. We'll have to see.
Uh, I as well like Cliff Kingsbury. I expect Kyler Murray to have a good season. Um, yeah, they have key additions in DeAndre Hopkins. Isaiah Simmons could be possibly defensive rookie of the year. Um, yeah, they lost David Johnson, but they have Kenyon Drake. Is that correct?
Yep.
So I don't think they're missing. Their O line could be better. Their defense could always improve, but it still isn't bad. I like the Cardinals this year. They're my sleeper team, 10-6.
Saints and Niners going to be the two battling it out most likely at the top of this division. Um, for me, when you have Russell Wilson, you're going to be there. You're going to be there in the postseason. You're going to be there competing in every game. They bring in Philip Dorsett, Carlos Hyde, Greg Olson. I think that they end up winning the division kind of because the 49ers take a little bit of a step back, I think. I don't know if they'll have a quote-unquote Super Bowl hangover, but because their schedule is light in the beginning of the season, the first couple games. But um, you lose Sanders, you lose Buckner. I don't know. I don't think Garoppolo can bring them as far as he did last year. Obviously, the Super Bowl. So that's just my opinion.
When it comes to these two teams, it's really a flip of the coin. But um, the 49ers, Super Bowl hangover, maybe Russell Wilson he's going to be dominant again. He's always an MVP candidate. But I have 4 11-5 teams in the NFC, and the tiebreakers helped the Niners get the 1 seed in the NFC conference. But I don't know. I thought when they were making their run last year that they were fool's gold, but I don't know. I grew to like the Niners and their defense. Kyle Shanahan, say what you want about him, but I don't know.
I think I kind of told you this earlier that I thought that the NFC could very well have a team that goes with 10 wins and misses out in the playoffs. And in this situation, in my picks, it wasn't a 10-win team, but it was the Eagles who missed out with 9 wins. But like I said, I think that the NFC is going to be a tough, tough race for the playoffs. All right. So we'll go now to the postseason where they did change the format of the postseason. So Wild Card Weekend looks a little bit different now.
Bills, a 4-5 matchup. I got them beating the Tennessee Titans. The Buffalo Bills, like I said, had one of the hardest schedules. The whole AFC East division had it rough on them this year. But I do think they win this game against the Titans. The Ravens are going to beat the Steelers probably by 2 touchdowns or more. The Broncos, I have beating the Texans, which is probably my biggest upset in the playoffs. But I have the Seahawks beating the Packers, Saints beating the Cardinals, and the Cowboys defeating Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
So I have Steelers at Bills, which I think any other team in terms of an ASC lower seed. So I guess like if it was the Broncos, if the Raiders or Chargers made it, if the Texans made it, I think if the Bills played any other team, I would have had them losing. But I just can't put my faith in Big Ben. I just don't think he has it in him to take over a game anymore. I don't know. Broncos at Colts, tough match for the Broncos. I think the Colts at home win that one. Browns, I think they have a much improved season that Baker needed because Baker, to me, it's kind of like it's a win now situation because there's too much talent around him. They're going to give up on him if he doesn't have it in him to have a good season. But I think the Ravens are too good. Niners will beat the Cowboys. Whoever plays the Niners or Seahawks in the wild card weekend is getting, I mean, just completely unlucky because those are two of the best teams in the league. Buccaneers over the Packers. I think the Packers season is going to end in disappointment. There's something feels off about Rodgers heading into the season. And then Vikings and Saints. Saints get their revenge at home. All right, we're going to move on to the next 2 rounds, divisional and conference. Take us through yours.
I have the Kansas City Chiefs staying dominant after the bye. Oh, only the 1 seed gets the bye this year. And they're going to play the worst team in the playoff for the AFC, but they're not a bad team. But anyways, I have the Kansas City Chiefs winning that. I have the Buffalo Bills beating the Ravens, which could be controversial, but I feel like Josh Allen's going to rally them over the Ravens. I feel like the Ravens are going to get upset again in the divisional, and Buffalo Bills are going to find themselves in the AFC Championship. It was a little run. I was up in the air with that matchup, but I decided to go with the Bills. Saints are ultimately going to beat the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is when they put it all together in the playoffs and not choke, hopefully. I want to see the Saints win one. And the Seattle Seahawks are going to defeat the 49ers. It's literally a flip of the coin toss, like I said. You can go either way on this one, but I think Russell Wilson's going to pull it out. And, never mind.
You guys can clearly see how high I think of the Colts this season, 11-5 and making it to the divisional round. However, they will not have enough in them. I think Philip Rivers, at the end of the day, will not have enough in him to take them over that last hump. And I think the Ravens, really good team, obviously. And then they go and bring in Calais Campbell and draft Patrick Queen, who I love. And I think that makes them a better team defensively because last year they couldn't stop the run. And yeah, no problems here. Bills at Chiefs. Chiefs coming off a bye. Andy Reid's not going to lose this game. Chiefs roll forward. Niners at Saints. This would be a really, really good matchup. I give the Saints the edge because basically Breeze over Garoppolo. And then the Buccaneers and Seattle. Again, this would be a fascinating matchup. At Seattle would be a tough place to play, obviously in the playoffs. And Russell Wilson, I think, wills the Seahawks team to the conference championship. Bills at Chiefs over there. What are you saying?
Chiefs win it again, probably with ease. I think they're going to fly by the AFC with no problem, make it to the Super Bowl back-to-back seasons. Unfortunately, I feel like we're going to have another Patriots situation, I think Tom Brady has passed on the torch to Patrick Mahomes, and we are going to see the Chiefs dominate this league for many, many years. As for the Saints and Seahawks, I have the Saints. Uh, I need to see one more out of Breeze. Like, I'm rooting for Breeze. Maybe I'm a little biased for the Saints, uh, but that's going to be one of the best matchups of the year if that happens in the conference championship.
Ravens at Chiefs would be. I mean, those are the two best teams in the AFC. They just are. But I think that there's really nothing not to like about this Chiefs team. They draft Edwards-Helaire in the draft, who gives them a running back that they can pass to, and it's just driven by stars and explosive players. They didn't lose much. You have Mahomes, you have Andy Reid. You figure out a way to win. And then the Saints and Seahawks, if Drew Brees can get to the Super Bowl this season, that would be massive for New Orleans because who knows, this could very well be Brees' last season. And if he would get to the Super Bowl, it'd be kind of a fairy tale ending, which takes us to the Super Bowl, which we both have as the same match, Chiefs and Saints.
Yeah, this is just a big coincidence here. We did not we did not plan to have the same Super Bowl matchup, but we did. And my pick is the Saints here. I don't know who you have, but I want to see the Saints win. Ultimately, just to take down the big dogs. A little like a storybook ending with Drew Brees, maybe ending his career after this season, maybe not. He has that contract with NBC, I think, or ESPN it is. I don't know. But I think we're all rooting for Drew Brees here to get one more.
I would love for the Saints to win the Super Bowl and for the Chiefs to lose the Super Bowl. However, I think the Chiefs are my pick this season, which stinks to say. I don't like the Chiefs, but they're just too good. And I think that you're absolutely right that Mahomes took the torch from Brady, and he's obviously the best quarterback in the league and is the future for a long time. So I think we're going to see the Chiefs, if not in the Super Bowl every year, close to it every year. And yeah, I have them going back to back, which is tough to do, but I think it can be done with that roster. So that is our 2020 season.
So live a life you will remember.